Top 10 ways to beat the coming inflation hikes. Anyone shopping for a new car or even a cup of coffee has noticed rising prices. As the economic recovery picked up momentum last month, inflation soared at its quickest rate in roughly 13 years, according to the Labor Department. Prices rose 5.3% from 1 year earlier. Before we start the video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can be updated by my new videos. According to recent data from the US Census Bureau, the median household income decreased by 2.9% during the epidemic, marking the first notable dip in a decade. Number 10. Negotiate lower prices on everyday expenses. Andres Lairs, managing partner at Baltimore's Shapiro Negotiations Institute, asserts that you can bargain for a better price on nearly anything to offset increased pricing. Lairs suggested starting by establishing a rapport before inquiring about any discounts or programs you might be eligible for. Asking is not harmful. The APRA on your credit card, as well as streaming services, insurance premiums, cable bills, cell phone plans, and gym memberships are classic examples of regular expenses that are frequently changeable. According to surveys, customers who contact and request a reduced rate nearly often succeed, which can be a terrific tool for cutting monthly spending. Consider other choices if you discover that the lender or seller is unwilling to reduce the price. A good strategy to increase value for the same price is to get more for your money. Number 9. Postpone big-ticket purchases. Not everything will inevitably cost more. It might be advantageous to wait if a price increase is only temporary. Neil Gilfter, Senior Vice President of Portfolio Management at Edelman Financial Engines, said, "You can postpone purchases that are not urgently necessary." For instance, the price of used cars and trucks, which had been a significant factor in inflation increases, is up 31.9% year over year, but is beginning to decline, falling 1.5% in August. The chip scarcity that contributed to price increases is anticipated to ease in the coming months, and automobiles typically cost less as the year comes to a close and into January, since dealers are trying to move last year's models. Similar to how building materials like lumber, steel, gypsum, and copper reach record highs this year, the sky-high demand for home improvements and supply chain snags were to blame. However, since the demand for raw materials declines in the winter, remodeling may also become more reasonably priced soon. Wait till it might be less expensive later, Gilfter advised. It becomes more challenging if you have to purchase something that suddenly costs more, he continued. This is an instance where an emergency fund may be useful. You won't need to rely on credit cards or other high-interest debt if you have any additional savings. Number 8. Diversify your investments. Determine the appropriate assets for your investments, taking into account your income, expenses, risk tolerance, and time horizon, to retain your purchasing power over the long run. That portion of your portfolio loses purchasing power if inflation is higher than what you are earning on Treasury bonds. But there are alternatives that compensate for that. For some security, think about combining commodities, Treasury inflation-protected securities, and stocks. According to Dan Keaty, Chief Financial Planning Strategist at Taya, over extremely long periods of time, it is possible that a properly diversified portfolio that includes equities, real estate, and TIP can deliver the requisite return to resist inflation. Instead of attempting to time short-term changes, he suggested, stay with diversity and rebalance back to your goal portfolio at least annually. Number 7. Weigh real estate and commodities. In times of inflation, tangible assets, such as real estate or commodities, are also something to consider, says Grace Young, Certified Financial Advisor at Midtown Financial Group. Natural gas, oil, and broad commodity baskets have topped the commodity universe in year-to-date gains in 2021, amid a time when inflation fears have increased, as Morningstar recently observed on the commodities front. Additionally, Warren Buffett has advocated using real estate as a hedge against inflation. Number 6. Look for tax-efficient hikes. In order to fight inflation, Carrick advises looking for tax efficiency in your brokerage account. Investments that typically lose less of their returns to taxes are better suited for taxable accounts, whereas investments that typically lose more of their returns to taxes should be allocated to tax-advantaged accounts in order to maximize tax efficiency. Essentially, tax-efficient investing will reduce your tax burden, which means you pay less on what your assets produce, allowing you to keep more of your money. Because tax-free accounts can be extremely advantageous, Carrick advises opening one and funding it to the maximum. Number 5. Don't keep an excess of cash on hand. If you tend to keep a lot of liquid cash on hand, more than you might need for an emergency fund, you might want to think about investing the extra money. Although the stock market is now down, an investment can earn a considerably greater interest rate in the stock market over a lengthy period of time than it would in a savings account, according to Chanel Bissett, a banking expert at NerdWallet. Number 4. Don't neglect your savings. The most important thing is to have an emergency fund, advises Carrick. Open a savings account and put 3 to 6 months' worth of spending there that stays in cash and is reserved for emergencies. Although savings account rates are typically low, Bissett says that since earning some interest is much preferable to earning none at all, consumers should keep an eye out for high-yield online savings accounts, which frequently offer rates that are significantly higher than the industry standard. Additionally, you could need money for short-term savings. Consider a certificate of deposit, CD, but don't invest for a maturity that is longer than how long you can actually go without the money in order to maximize interest. Greg McBride, chief financial analyst at Bankrate, claims that there isn't enough interest to make the stretch worthwhile and that the early withdrawal penalty more than makes up the difference. Number 3. Evaluate your personal budget. Look for ways to cut financial outlays by evaluating your personal budget spending. Take into account loan refinancing, debt consolidation for reduced rates, and debt repayment. Additionally, investing in your professional marketability through ongoing education might result in additional income from side hustles or new company endeavors. Number 2. Review your investment allocation. Checking in with a financial advisor is a smart idea when inflation is on the rise to make sure your investment allocation matches your risk tolerance. Consider a reasonable asset allocation of 60% equities and 40% fixed income as an example. Consider moving some of your money to dividend-paying companies if you are income-focused. Bonds have historically struggled to keep up with inflation better than stocks. Number 1. Explore growth assets. Invest in growth-oriented assets to safeguard your capital. Use a diversified strategy with a variety of assets rather than keeping your money in a savings account, especially because they would lose value if kept as cash during inflationary periods. Investments need to increase during these times. Think about stocks, property, and other growth investments. I hope you find this video helpful. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe as it really helps our channel, and remember to give your feedback in the comments below. See you in the next video with some more interesting topics and facts.